Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting session by Digital Vidya. For the people joining in for the first time, you all are on mute by default. If you have any comments or questions, you can put it in the questions panel on the right hand side. We'll pick up all your questions once we are done with the presentation. The topic for today's session is social selling, an opportunity to grow your business. In this webinar, we'll focus on increasing your company's sales using social media, and we will go in depth into strategies to increase your pipeline, forecast accuracy, and sales win rate and revenue. For leading this session, we have Kiruba Shankar. He is the CEO of Business Blogging and founder and director of F5 Technologies. He has 20 years of work experience in internet space and has helped craft digital strategies for large firms. He has also worked with leading brands such as British Council, Domino's Pizza, Murugappa Group, and Mahindra Group. So welcome, Kiruba. You can start with the presentation and we'll take up the questions once we are done with the presentation.
Thank you. Awesome, Divya. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's fantastic to have you all over. It's a little strange that all of us are all across the country and some from overseas as well. You can't see me, I can't see you, so I'm going to do the very best to see how we can connect with each other. Like Divya just introduced, my name is Kiruba Shankar. I do three things. One, I run a digital consulting firm where we help corporate companies strategize their online and digital properties, and we also execute the strategies for them as well. I'm also a professor of digital marketing. I've been teaching for 17 years, and I teach at 3 B schools. And the third is completely unrelated to what is digital. Is I'm an organic farmer. I run a 13-acre organic farm about 3 hours from Chennai. So that's very quickly about me. Now, jumping into the topic right away is a subject of social selling. And, when Pradeep Chopra, the CEO of Digital Vidya, reached out to me and said that, hey, Kiruba, you should come in and be part of the webinar, I had listed down various other topics. In my 22 years of work experience in the online field, I've had a chance to really, meet up with a lot of other corporate companies, both in B2B as well as B2C, and we have done a lot of consulting work. So it was easy to list down a whole list of topics that we can do. We can do online reputation management. We can do how you can really make the best use of the various social media platforms and so on and so forth. But the more I thought about it, there was one thing that really became crystal clear. No matter which organization I spoke with, no matter which brands that I work with, the main bottom line that everybody wants to know is how can social and digital really help impact their bottom line? How can social and digital really help in sales? Because let's all face it, it's all about the money at the end of the day. When a company or when a marketing executive or when a brand head wants to use social media as a way to do it, it means that they're investing time, they're investing money, they're investing resources, and all of this at the end of the day really translates to investment in money. And so when companies want to invest money, they want to make sure that they get the bang for their buck. So at the end of the day, I started to realize that the most important part is in actually helping brands leverage social and digital for sales. And that's the reason why I vehemently and anonymously chose social selling as the topic. And I'm really hoping that this is very useful for you. Because let's face it, no matter in what position you're there currently, no matter what area of work that you're an entrepreneur or a professional, you will have this impact in terms of sales come back to you. I'd also want to say that I'm currently authoring a book with the same title. It's called Social Selling. And this is a 2-year journey that I've undertaken, where I speak with heads of sales, heads of marketing, with CEOs, with directors of large companies in B2B, B2C, not just in India, but across the world. And I really want to dissect how is it that companies are using social and digital as a powerful way to increase their sales. Okay, so you know, as I talk through the presentation, I will also dig a little deep into my conversation that I've had with people and also my own experiences as well. A quick caveat before I jump in, that even though I'm a digital guy, right, I've been working for 22 years, I will not be evangelizing digital fully, meaning that I will not drum down on traditional marketing or traditional media and say that digital is the sexy thing, is the holy grail. I'm a strong believer that for a company to do excellent selling, then you need to be smart enough to leverage the best of both digital and traditional media. All right. So with that, let's just jump right in. So what's social selling defined? And this is a typical textbook definition. But I want you to really, I'm going to read it out and then I'm going to explain to you the key points that really stands out for me. Leveraging your social brand to fill your pipeline with the right people, insights, and relationship. I want you to take a look at those sentences carefully once again and focus on the words that are highlighted in blue. Social brand, right people, insights, and relationship. 3 out of those 4 that have been highlighted in blue really talks about people, right? So this is something that you need to be extremely careful about, and I started to learn this from my own experience. Sales happen because of relationship. At the end of the day, there are 2 main sets of people who play an important role in sales. Number 1 are influencers, people working within an organization who will put a good word out for you. And then the decision makers, the people who have the authority to sign on the dotted line and cut you a check. Now, both these people, the sooner and the sharper and the more clearer that we are able to identify, the easier it becomes. And that's where I strongly believe that digital gives you a phenomenal ability for you to micro-target as against traditional. You know, imagine if you're in a newspaper or a radio station or a TV channel, then you pay money and it's what is called as the spray and pray method. Spray and pray method. You have no idea who's watched your ad, what kind of a profile that person has, and that's the strength that digital really comes in, because now you can micro target. You can tell people what is the age group that you're looking at, what does this person work in this company? You show my ad only to a person who's at senior vice president and above. Show my ad only to who own an iPhone 7. So that level of customization, you can never ever in your wildest dream think of using this in traditional media. All right. So to me, social selling really means your ability to micro target your target audience, the guys who will give you the sales, and then build a relationship going forward. Now, one of the things is, this is a slightly confusing slide, so I'm going to make it easy for you to understand. Amongst all the ones that you're seeing, the one that really look at right in the middle of it, focus on the social media, and look at how sales in social has the highest order. So this means that salespeople are really looking at it. You know, for all of us who are even remotely connected to sales, and we all know the sales funnel, right? Which is, the larger the number of leads that you collect, then the leads will then funnel down into warm prospects, into hot prospects, and then finally into sales closure, right? So always keep in mind that our goal is also to increase the leads and increase attention. And there are 2 ways how you can do this. One is outward marketing, which is you go and tell the world and reach out to people and say that, hey, here's the service that you're offering. here's the product that you're selling, why you're awesome, and that's outward selling. The other one is inbound marketing, which is letting people come to you because you have something of importance. You have something that is very, very useful, and that's what. So I'm a big fan of the second model of inbound marketing and how do you attract people going forward. And amongst the first thing that you really need to do is to ensure that you are a real person. Remember, in the beginning, we touched upon the fact that social selling is all about personal relationship. So you need to ensure that you are a person that the other person really wants to engage with. And part of that is to ensure that you have a solid online presence yourself. I always tell my clients that, while people may understand brands, but they want to deal with people. So make sure that your profile, your online profile is spick and span. Do you have a 100% profile completion on LinkedIn? Have you uploaded all your profile photos and filled up all your details on Facebook, on Twitter? Many times the simplest of these things we miss out, but the other person gives you exactly a second or 2 seconds more to decide whether it is worth to deal with you or not. So simple factor, but don't miss this out. And also ensure that try, especially if you're the key guy in your company, if you're a startup entrepreneur, if you're the head of sales, if you're the marketing head, you need to make sure that don't lock up your profiles and make sure that you are really seen out there. Now let's come to content. So let me give you a small example that I actually faced this morning. I now consult for a company which is about 150 people strong, and they are in the web development and mobile development ad space. Now, their target audience are people in the United States, and the CTOs and the CIOs are the guys who will are the guys that these guys are talking about. So, so the strategy that the company followed is that, hey, what are the 10 things that companies should take care of while outsourcing their IT projects, right? So this company is based in India. They're targeting US clients, and the beautiful thing is that they understood what the problem that the US companies were facing, which is, hey, out of sight is out of mind. I do not have very high confidence in the Indian technology companies. So I've heard that the quality of their programming is not very good. There's so much apprehensions that people have. So this company that's based in India, they beautifully found out what was the problem, and they addressed all those problems in a wonderful blog post. They converted that blog post into a nice slide share. They also converted that into a very interesting, beautiful looking infographic. Then they started to share this on Twitter. They turned this into an answer for a question on Quora. So look at that. It's just one single hook, which is adhering to the fears of the US company, but they beautifully converted that into different content formats, and they put it up on different social media channels. And that's a great way. And look at the screen as I'm talking to you, which is the great content is the best sales tool in the world, because great content also means great usefulness. And when content is very useful, that's where the stickiness factor comes in. That's where people want to engage more with you. So this is a beautiful one, and this is a statement from LinkedIn itself, which is people who consistently share content. Not just share content, but also produce original content. And on a regular basis are the people who are seen the highest. And when you're seen the highest, consequently, you have more opportunities for the gates to open, for more hands for you to shake, and more sales for you to close. So ensure that you're also able to micro-target and find out who the people are. Like I told you that, find out what is the pain point. That's a great way for you to reverse engineer your content. What is the great pain point that people have? And then produce a lot of content that gives an answer to your prospective clients' pain points. And a good way to do this is to give a lot of free resources. As Indians, we've all been taught right from a very young age is to be careful with your properties, right? If you have a toy, then make sure that you take care of it. If you're sitting in an exam, don't show your answers to others. Don't copy. This is how we've been brought up. But in this digital world, the person who shares the highest is the person that will win the most. So I'm going to repeat that again. Companies and professionals who share content and knowledge open-heartedly, profusely, when they really go and share their key insights, their deep knowledge, what we call as intellectual property, the more you share, the more useful it is for others, and the more you benefit. One of the greatest examples that I've found is this company called HubSpot. HubSpot is an inbound marketing company. They are one of the very few companies also that truly walk their talk. The amount of content that they share, in fact, the presentation that I'm showing to you right now, look on the top left side screen, is from HubSpot. I've been a professor, and I know that in my teaching, I'm really constantly looking out for excellent resources for me to learn and also for me to teach. And I've consistently seen that HubSpot does an enormous, they have an enormous team, they put in an enormous effort to create original content, and here I am playing the brand ambassador for a company, right? So I think that's a powerful thing. So give away a lot of ebooks, give away a lot of templates, give away a lot of pointers, podcasts, infographics. Just be absolutely generous. Here's also another example of you giving away things, also being very, very topical, right? So now I noticed that there were, lots of floods in Mumbai, and some of the companies played it very smart by giving you tips on, during a flood, how do you really take care of yourself? Now, the purist will say, what the heck has this got to do with your with marketing? What the heck has this got to do with selling? Right? It's all about being useful, being topical, being contextual, and being there at the right time. Right? So keep that in mind. So we touch this again. Constantly keep asking yourself, what are our customer questions? What are their challenges? And what are their pain points? Every single day. For every client that you're planning to pitch, your prospective client that you're planning to win, always do a background homework on what is it. So one of my great examples is this graduation talk given by Sheryl Sandberg at Harvard University. She gave this, so graduation talk is when people graduate out, they invite one great person to come and give a talk. And so Sheryl said that when she moved from Google to Facebook as the COO, it's a new company, a new culture, and she's just grappling with the company. And so a lot of people started to send her emails saying that, hey, you know what, I'm looking for a job, and if you have any openings in Facebook, please let me know. And she was pummeled with a lot of emails and resumes. But there was just one email that Sheryl says that really stood out for me. And that is from a person who said, hey, Sheryl, I know you've just joined Facebook, and I know that you will have a lot of challenges coping with new culture and figuring out strategy and going forward. Here are 5 ways how I think you can cope with, and if you ever need any help, I'm happy to help out. And Sheryl says, wow, here is this person who's not wanting something, but who's offering. And I think that made a big impact. And you know what? Like, you know how the story goes. She hires this person, and after about 7 or 8 years, this person is the most productive and the most valuable employee in Facebook. So that's a kind of a good point. So for the sales team as well, especially for sales professionals, before they head out to and meet up with clients, it'll be important if they're armed with a lot of information about the client, but also a lot of a lot of content that is already generated on various social media networks as well. So here's a good example. If there's a company that is looking out for inbound marketing, then ensure that you have a very strong presence in a lot of inbound marketing groups. Go there and have a lot of conversation. Show that you're the thought leader. Show that you're the person carrying that flag and really marching forward. Show that you truly mean it when it comes to owning the space. And a way to do this is by really creating what I call as an editorial calendar. I tell people that, and we follow this in our own organization, and I also advise anyone else who are starting on taking digital and social seriously, is to really look at yourself as editor-in-chief of a magazine. You're the editor-in-chief of a newspaper. Your goal is to get useful information out, right? And you need to have an editorial calendar. You need to create a content engine, and make sure that you create a lot of blog posts, you create a lot of social posts, but you plan it out very well. You plan it out 1 week in advance. You plan it out a fortnight in advance, and check whether each and every content ties in beautifully with your company's goals. Does it tie in beautifully with the needs of your prospective clients? So this is a kind of a very, very good best practice for you to follow. Again, remember that your salespeople should, everybody hates sales, let's face it, right? How many of you ever felt happy seeing an ad on TV? How many of you felt happy, being, when you're walking into a mall and a sales guy comes and gives you a brochure and talks with you? Let's face it, right? We all hate it. We don't want to be sold to. And that's the perennial problem. So knowing that people don't like being sold to, now how do you then go ahead and make a sale? You make a sale by making you as an influencer. You make a sale by improving your own credibility. And that's why every single sales guy, if they can really become as knowledge, superior knowledge owners, then that'll work out very, very well. Here's also another very interesting fact, and I think you should really know this, that gone are the days when you approaching other customers doesn't work anymore. Let's face the fact, okay? The writing is on the wall. The typical cold calling and going and asking people just will not work. Given a choice between you approaching a person or the prospective approaching you, the second always wins. So your goal is to let people reach you instead of you reaching your prospective customer. And so remember that that's where you really use word of mouth. You really dig deep into your network, and you ask for people's connection. Right? It works extremely well. When somebody introduces you well in advance, it makes your job a lot more easier. So remember that. So all right, let's just go quickly forward. Just a quick time check. We are 25 minutes into the webinar, and we have another 15 minutes before we open up we do a little exercise, and then we open for Q&A. So I'm being very sensitive on time. All right, let's go forward. Here, this is an important point I wanted to illustrate. One form of content is where you create original content. This could be in the form of blog posts. This could be in the form of ebooks, white papers. This could be infographics. A second part of it is where the interactivity really comes in, where you join an existing conversation and then you add value. Is that a question that somebody asked in a LinkedIn group? Is that a question that somebody asked in Quora? Do you know the answer? If so, can you take the time out to go and answer that question? I think that's very, very important for you. So the more you create, then the more visible you are. And I think that's a very, very important strategy for you to follow. I'm going to skip a few slides. So here's another thing that is very, very important. Before we go in for a sales call, so interestingly, right after this webinar at 5 o'clock, I'm meeting a prospective software product company and pitching in to help them with their digital and social media sales. You know what I should do? I should really find out who their competitors are, because that's the language that companies want to listen. Who are the other competitors who are doing better than them? What are the strategies that they are following? How many people in their domain area really use social and digital? What are some of the best practices in other domains? This could be FMCG, this could be in IT, but those key points, how is it that they can use it in the domain where the company is? So it's very important for us to do our little homework. In fact, I go even to the extent of going through and finding out what their hobbies are. What are their interests? What did they do in the last 3 months? Because these are all excellent icebreakers before you go. You might say, hey, but this is all just generic sales techniques. How is this applicable to social selling? Once again, I'm telling you, it is selling at the end of the day. It just so happens that the medium is a little different. So let's ensure that we have our basics absolutely right. Selling is what you're doing, but you're using just the medium. So the basics don't change at all. Email marketing continues to be a very powerful mode of getting in leads. Okay, let me again tell you an incident that happened yesterday, and I think a very powerful lesson. So I interviewed James Lawrence. James Lawrence is a Guinness World Record holder in Ironman triathlons. So this is like 4 kilometers swimming, 180 kilometers cycling, and 42 kilometers running back to back without a break. And this guy did 50 of those in 50 days across 50 states. Now, this guy is also a professional speaker, meaning that he gets paid to go and speak. And so when I had this conversation, he let me in on a huge secret. And he says, every time I go and speak at a major conference or at a company gathering, then I always ensure that the company gives me the database of people that he has just spoken with. So within a few hours of him finishing a talk, he will send out an email to his book or to his workshop that he's conducting. And he says it has a very high hit rate because people have just heard him speak, people are wowed by his achievement and his presentation, and then there is a quick call to action. Right? So I thought that was a brilliant example of social selling, where he uses the best of real world, which is offline, and email and social, which is online. He has also painstakingly built over how much is it? It's about 250. That's about 2.5 lakh following on Facebook, and that's a brilliant way of having your own media, right? So this is he has earned that, and over time. So that also becomes like an excellent sales tool. So with his next book, with his next workshop, he continues to sell going forward. All right, that's good. So here are some of the points that I wanted to find, but I also wanted to quickly move on and show you another presentation. Let me see if I have that open. Yes. Okay. So some more pointers that I wanted to point out, which is, so number one, you need to be, so look at point number one. You need to be extremely clear about what is your goal. What do you want to achieve in sales? And that's why having a key performance index and watching closely what you're doing. With every activity on Facebook, with every activity in LinkedIn, YouTube, SlideShare, blogs, and website, can you measure on a daily basis how your activity is actually helping sales? Measuring is very important because you will know whether it's working or not working, and accordingly you can make slight changes going forward. Next one is for you to figure out what is the right platform. What is the right platform that is really working for you? It's very important because for B2B companies, LinkedIn works far better than Facebook. But if you're a B2C company, Facebook works far better than LinkedIn. If you're a company in India, if your prospective company is in India, I have from my own experience seen that Twitter has not had that big a play. Whereas if your client, your prospective client is in the United States, Twitter has a big role to play. So it's very important for you to really identify your target audience. What platforms are they being very active in, and then accordingly choosing the right platform. At this point, I also wanted to say that please do not spread yourself thin. Please do not sign up for every shiny new social network that's coming in, because you will fail. Every social media channel is like a cycle, right, with a bicycle, and you cannot ride 4-5 bicycles at the same time. So your time is limited, your resources are limited, so ensure that you only pick the right few ones, maybe 3 at the max, and then go all out and put your effort into that. All right, so once you've done that, then you need to ensure that you target, especially when you're paying for Facebook sponsored ads or LinkedIn promotional posts, then ensure that you're able to pinpoint your right target audience and nail it down. And the second one is contextual engagement, which is everything that you're talking about, does it make sense to the audience? Is it useful? So I think it's very important for you to do that. The next point is, so we discussed this earlier. Many people pay a lot of attention to corporate branding, but very few people actually focus on personal branding. Remember that you yourself are a brand. So you need to, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a CEO, you're a CTO, or you're just a beginner or a student, you are a brand, whether you like it or not. So ensure that you consistently sculpt your brand very, very effectively. And of course, do the basics and ensure that your name, photo, title, bio, everything is filled in. The good way to do that is by aiming for 100% profile completion. So there is a beautiful profile completion workbook that LinkedIn has. So I'm sure Digital Vidya team will send you an email post this webinar. I will share that link out with them, and they will pass it on to you. I found that workbook was extremely useful. It's a ready reckoner. It has a lot of tick boxes. All you have to do is just make sure that all boxes are ticked, and then voila, you're good to go. So that's a kind of a good one that I will send you. I will also send you another resource that I found very useful, which is the social selling workbook. It will ask you a lot of questions that actually can be quite uncomfortable, because it really makes you to dig deep. It really makes you to think. But that's the good thing, right? So you want somebody to ask the tough questions. So that's a kind of a beautiful workbook that I will pass it on through the Digital Vidya team as well. Consistently, time and time again, every single day, expand your network. If given a choice, speak at conferences. Given a choice, write books, author ebooks, be seen in the public domain, be seen as a thought leader, be seen as a proponent of knowledge in that domain. It's really, really helpful out there. We touched this, have a publishing plan. Google for social media editorial calendar. You will get tons of resources. Pick one that you're most comfortable with, but most importantly, start using it. So that's the trick for you to do. And then engage in conversations. Always look for an opportunity to add value. Why am I doing this, right? So Pradeep is a very, very close friend of mine, and the reason why I'm doing this is by teaching, I become better, and by teaching, I will help you out, right? And no, I'm not getting paid to do this, but the important thing is that because I'm helping you, and hopefully what I've said, if it makes sense to you, then you will probably want to know a little bit more about me. Right? You will go check out my company's site. You will check my LinkedIn. You will send me a friend request. Right? And that's how we slowly, painstakingly, single by single, you start building your own network. Not by selling, but by really adding value. And I want to wrap this up by saying that, opportunities are everywhere. It's a beautiful medium. I'm a huge believer in the power of social and digital. I'm sure everyone listening to this webinar is also a true blue believer. It's a powerful tool, and it will be something that will be very, very useful. Another one is in using social media listening tools. Things like socialmention.com, Google Alerts. There are also paid tools like Radian 6, stiffly expensive, but very, very powerful as well. So use many of these tools, both free and paid, and start to really look very closely on what are people talking about you. What are people talking about your competitors? Let me give you another example. One of my clients is this company called Sterling Holidays. They are a holiday ownership company. Their biggest competitors are Club Mahindra, part of the Mahindra and Mahindra group. So what we closely look at is who are the people who are unhappy with Club Mahindra's services? Who are the people really talking bad about them? Because that is a sitting duck opportunity for you to engage in a conversation with them and hopefully put them into your paying audience as well, right? So use listening very carefully, keep your ears close to the ground, and do that. And so this is a great example, right? And hotels have, I think, the best service-minded people. They will bend over backwards and they will do anything that you want. So think and behave like a concierge at a 5-star hotel for maximum impact. Really be, because the person who is able to give the maximum value to the audience will be the one that will really, really win. So in closure, I want to say you got to be helpful, be proactive. Don't wait for people to ask you. Comprehend what people want to know and then quickly go and reach out, and be very genuine. Everybody hates salesy people. You do not want to come across and tell that, hey, here's my company. Have you ever, in this 40 minutes that we have talked about, have I ever even mentioned my company's name even once? I will not, because my goal for this webinar is to give you useful information. My goal for this webinar is not to sell my company or my company's services, right? And that's where you really build credibility over long run. And be inclusive. I'm a professor and a very passionate teacher. You would have loved for this to be like super interactive, but unfortunately this is a one-way webinar, right? But in the real world, in social media, the more interactive you are, the better it is going forward. Great. So with that, that's a wrap on the formal teaching side of it. I'm really, really looking forward to the interactive section where you ask questions, and I'm like super excited to answer them for you from my real world experience. So I'm going to pass the buck back to Divya, and Divya, if you can help me fish out questions and pass it on to me, I'd love to answer.
Sure, Kiruba. Thank you so much. Everyone, I'm launching out a poll for people who are interested in a digital marketing course, and also you all can put in your questions in the questions panel on the right hand side, and we'll start picking up the questions. We already have a few questions from Devika. She is asking, social selling requires continuous monitoring. Do we need a dedicated resource for monitoring our social media performance, or should we outsource this activity?
I would recommend you having it as an in-source, meaning that have this person within your company. I don't think social media, I don't know if you're a large company or a medium-sized company. I'm going to take a guess and say that you are a mid-sized company to a small company. If that's the case, then definitely, you won't have the resources to outsource, and hence make sure that it's internally you start looking at it, because you need a person with authority to look at those numbers very hard and with a hawk's eye, and to find out what is happening and not happening. Right? So I would say for the listening part, keep it within the company. But for the content creation bit, that's a long-winded game. That requires a lot of effort. It requires people with multiple talents. So you need a social media strategist for you to understand how social media happens. You need a content writer in order to write good content. You need a person with good SEO skills to ensure that your content has the right keywords and the inbound links and the outbound links and the tags. You need a graphic designer to design a very nice visual to go with your content. So those are things where you really need a team. That is worth outsourcing. Okay, but monitoring, I would definitely say that keep it in the house.
Noted. Thank you so much. Devika has another question. She wants to know that how do we ensure that our followers have genuine social media profiles? I have faced multiple users, fake users, who keep spamming her with the fake details. So how can she help with that?
Yeah. So the problem gets even more compounded, Devika, because you're a girl, and then that it really happens. So yeah, you're right. People do fake, but the good news is that it's very difficult to fake for a long time, right? Because you can fake once, but if you're not adding value, people can easily see through that person. And the easiest one is just to block and report. And when hundreds of people do that, and the person is kicked out immediately. So in the long run, the only way you can really make only genuine people will last it, because they're the only ones who can take the time, effort in order to give value, right? So that's my answer.
Noted. Thank you so much. Moving to next question, Monisha wants to know how can we automate social selling?
Can you repeat the name again, please?
Monisha.
Monisha. All right. How can you automate social selling? My quick, short answer is you cannot automate it. It is you need to put in a lot of manual effort behind it. It's not like you get a social selling tool, you pay money every month, and the tool will do all the job for you. It does not work out this way. I have gone through a lot of social selling books and social selling case studies, some of these from Harvard and Stanford. I've spoken with head of sales who use social and digital. It all comes down to doing the nitty-gritties. It all comes down to producing a lot of content. It all comes down to having a lot of interactivity. It all boils down to answering people's pain point and making it easy for them. So all of this, unfortunately, requires a lot of manual work. So there could be a few tools to help you along the way, but there is really no one single silver bullet tool that will come and automate sales for you.
Thank you. Samrat wants to know that he is the owner of a supermarket in Bangalore. So any recommendation for social marketing and social selling tools for him to increase his customer database?
Sure. So Samrat, the fact that you're running a supermarket also means that most of your people, your buyers and your customers would be within a 3-kilometer range, or maybe a 5-kilometer range, right? One, you know that your customer base is very geographically bound. So it's a good way for you to use. It could be Google or Facebook ads for you to micro-target people within the geographical area in and around your supermarket, and so that your ads are only shown to people in that physical area. And you can still even nail even a further down into finding it out whether is this person married, does he have a family, or is he a bachelor, and you can ensure that the messaging goes accordingly to the person's profile. So that's also something that really works very well. You know, we worked with Domino's Pizza for some time, and I know that within Domino's Pizza they would have they would even use timing as a very excellent measure. They found that lunchtime, during lunchtime, they really increased their ad their ad spend. During dinner time, they increase their ad spend so that all the ads are really targeted towards the time where most people are most likely to be hungry. So similarly, I want you to find out your user pattern and then accordingly use geographical targeting as a way to reach out to your customers.
Thank you. Tanya's question is, how can she select social media for promoting her business as it is into IT industry?
Just read out that question a little slowly for me, Divya.
Sure. Tanya wants to know how can she select the best social media for promoting her business, which is into IT industry.
Okay. So my answers are, who is your target audience, right? It all boils down to in the IT industry. So who are the companies that are most likely to become your customers? And a great way to start is by writing down a wish list. Who are the top 100 clients that you wish to have? Because this is a wish list, you don't have to worry about whether it's doable or not doable. But write down all the companies that you want them to be your clients. And amongst that, nail it down to 10. Take 10 of those and then find out who is the decision maker. So if it is the CEO of the company who is the decision maker, or if it is the CTO of the company, now do a proper research using Google, using LinkedIn, using so many other various tools that you can get, and find out that person. Go and stalk. It's a very strong word to use, but really go and find out what his LinkedIn profile and what is his interest. Where is he hanging out? And then doing a little bit of this micro-targeting actually helps. Some people say, oh boy, this is so painstakingly slow. Hey, this is like so long-winded. Come on, isn't that one single area that I can just target everybody? I'll tell you what, people hate being one number amongst a lot, and it's absolutely worth your time. If you want that deal, if you want that that sales closure, then you have to get down to that individual person who really will sign the dotted line. Divya?
Hi, sir. Next question is by Netra. She wants to know how can she actually analyze a post and what action should she take when there are too many negative mentions for a specific post.
Right. So this is where keeping a close eye on it really helps, because part of your sales is also keeping a good eye on your online reputation management, right? Because when somebody talks negative about you or about your product, we all tend to get hurt. We don't want anything negative said about us. But the honest truth is that this is an online medium. This is a transparent medium. Anybody can talk anything about you. So instead of looking at it as negatively, see it as an opportunity to turn that person around. So look at this as an opportunity for you to convert that naysayer into a brand ambassador, you know. And the best way to do that, here is where I call it as the helmet syndrome, right? The helmet syndrome is let's say that somebody comes and crashes into your car, a bike rider comes and crashes into your car, you get down and you start shouting at this guy. And then the person, the bike rider, if he removes his helmet, you realize that, hey, this is your next door uncle. Then your language completely changes. So similarly, when somebody is very angry with you or who's not happy with you, when you start to speak to the person, when you address his problem, and when you say, sorry, I apologize, I will turn things around, I will make this better, then you're really speaking to him on an individual basis. I think so that's what really helps change people's perception. However, your question is, when there is a lot of negativity in your post, then what do you do? Then you have to go back to the drawing board. So if a lot of people are talking negative about you or about the company or service, then there should be some drastic change that you need to undertake within your company. That's the honest truth. Because remember, negativity is like a snowball as rolling down a hill. it will start gathering even more negative perception. It will start getting a lot more disgruntled customers, and it will only become bigger. And when somebody comes in and finds out that, hey, there are so many people unhappy about your product, then they would not even want to touch you with a 10-foot barge. So you've got to be careful with that. So the sooner you attack negativity, the better it is.
Thank you so much, Kiruba. Next question is by Mayank. He wants to know, how can a small business, which is either started by or set up by one or two person, can leverage social selling?
Actually, if there's anything that's the most useful, it is for people with very low marketing budget or zero marketing budget. That's where I think social and digital comes in as a very, very powerful weapon. Mid-sized or large companies can get away with going ahead spending money on Facebook, on Google Ads, and various other ways. If you're a startup and you're bootstrapping, then this is your best friend. So treat this medium with a lot of respect. What you cannot spend money on online advertisement, you can really make do with adding in a lot more useful content. So focus on getting in, focus on spending more time writing original posts, original content. If you don't have the bandwidth, or if you don't have the ability to write, not all of us are great writers, then identify people and get freelancers or part-time writers to come and write. I found that with internet, suddenly you don't have to restrict yourself looking for people only within your area. There are people in Philippines, there are people in Lithuania, the people in Australia who are able to get you some excellent good quality writing done with almost the same rate that you can pay for people that you find here in India. Maybe a little bit more, but you get some really excellent quality writers if you go to sites like Upwork and various other skill-based sites. So you have some really, really good resources for you to get help from. Thank you.
Tanya wants to know any social selling books or blog for gaining more insights.
That's a good one. Actually, there's a brilliant book that's going to come out written by a very handsome guy. So wait for that book. No, just joking. So there is a book that I'm writing which will come out only about 2 years later. But for now, the books that I'm not a big fan of books, honestly, even though I'm writing a book, because what you want are strategies very relevant to your industry. You don't want generic gyan. You want actual practical purposes for you to do. So I would recommend following people, social media people who keep sharing their best practices. Follow LinkedIn groups that are in and around your domain areas. Those are things that I would really recommend. Honestly, I can't think of one blog specific to social selling. Maybe I can look it up and I can share that with you. But right now, I don't have a name.
No problem. Thank you so much. Shiva wants to know, how can a startup validate the idea of the startup using social selling skills?
How can you validate? So that's a very good question. So let me really illustrate that with an example, right? Authors use this very, very effectively. First, I'll explain to you how authors use it, and then I will draw an analogy to businesses as well. So there are first-time authors, fairly unknown names. When they approach publishers, the publishers don't want to deal with them because there's no guarantee their books will sell. So what they will do is they will go on Amazon Kindle, they will sell their books, and then they will use various selling techniques and boost up sales, and then they walk to publishers with their numbers and say that, hey, look, I may not be a known name, but I was able to sell so many books on my own, and then that will capture that publisher's attention, and say that, hey, you know what, I think, yeah, your book has passed the test. It looks like people are interested in your book. It looks like you have the ability to market your thing. Let me come in and take your book and publish, right? So similarly, the same analogy for any industry is that if you are looking for, let's say, seed funding or a venture capital funding from someone, you really need to demonstrate your product, or it's actually a good way for you to beta test your product by ensuring that you charge for it and you let people come and pay for it and use, because then that's a good way for you to know if, even if people are not buying it, that's good news to you, right? Because now you have proof why people are not buying. You can find out why is it people are not buying. Then you can go back to the drawing board and figure things out. So this is an excellent way to test waters. That's why I always say that go ahead and just start selling. Just give your knowledge for free, but sell your product, and that's very, very important.
Thank you. Samir wants to know what should be the initial steps to set up a social selling strategy for a startup.
Number one, you need to ensure that your online properties are spick and span. Is your corporate website clean? Does your corporate website have a strong call to action? Ensure that people are you giving away some valuable inputs in your website so that you can capture people's contact details, right? So remember what Divya said is that there is a course that Digital Vidya is offering, and hey, if you're interested, fill it up. That's an excellent, beautiful way of getting in data from people who are interested in, right? So you need to ensure that happens. You need to ensure that your personal profiles are all good. You need to have a blog. You should be present on YouTube giving away good information. So basically, do all this work while you're physically visible online, right? So those are all little things. These things take time. Don't pressure yourself. Don't try and do all these things at the same time. Every week, yourself a goal that I'm going to take care of my website. Next week, I'm going to take care of my LinkedIn. The third week, I'm going to ensure that I set up a small channel on YouTube. I'm going to start making short videos. So when you start breaking it up and start taking baby steps, you will succeed. Trust me.
Thank you. Prachi wants to know that being an NGO, they have a very vast audience from youth who can volunteer to middle-aged people who could help them in fundraising. How can these people reach out using social media platform, and what would work best for them?
Yeah, so that's how you convert your volunteers into also fundraisers. This morning, I got to know about how a friend of mine signed up for a fundraiser for a school that they are building, and how each person starts becoming a fundraiser. Each person is given a kit, an online kit that they can start to use and reach out to their own network in order to identify. Like, for example, if somebody said that, hey, come and donate money to the school, I will turn a blind eye immediately because I don't know the school, I don't know where it is, I don't know who the founder is, why the heck should I care? But if my friend says, hey, you know what, I am helping out this school, and the reason why I'm helping out is this, would you mind chipping in? Then I will do it for my friend, even though I don't want to do it for the school. However, I respect and I value my friend, and I'm going to chip in a little bit. So I think making use of that, that everybody's individual network would be a kind of a good strategy to go forward.
Thank you. Shailesh's question is about how can a beginner company compete with big companies in this same domain using social selling?
Through knowledge. Absolutely through knowledge. You cannot compete with them in size. You cannot compete with them with employees. You definitely cannot compete with the marketing budget. What is the one thing that you can compete though is through knowledge, is by telling people that you know your subject very well, is by telling people that you value them by giving them a lot of information for them to succeed. That's how you compete with the big boys.
Great. Thank you so much, Kiruba, for leading such a wonderful session and solving out all our queries in a best way possible. And we would love to have you again in another webinar at a later stage of time. And thank you everyone for being a part of the session and contributing to the session with such valuable questions. We would love to have you seeing in the next webinar, probably next Friday. That's it. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone. Let's find out the
thank
session.
you everyone. It's been fantastic. And Divya, I have to say that you're brilliant on time. We closed exactly on the dot. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.